Yo, what is going on YouTube? I am Germ here. So even though the spring split of 2022 and really the last couple of years overall have been kind of a down period and a down era for TSM, they are still a super popular team. Maybe not as popular as they once were, but maybe that will come with, as soon as the winning comes back, maybe all the fans will come back. Maybe not. Maybe some other teams have stolen a little bit of a market share away from TSM over the past couple of years. We really don't know for sure, but it definitely doesn't seem like the height or the peak of TSM or anything these days. But that doesn't mean they can't get back to that point. Everything has ups and downs. Everything has lulls and, whatever. But just because TSM was tied for 9th or a last place team in the LCS in the spring split doesn't mean they still aren't interesting or exciting or still have a lot of people kind of checking in to see what they're doing in the offseason moves. It's not like this is Immortals or CLG or something like that. TSM is still TSM in a lot of ways. And today we're going to be going over a lot of the roster moves and kind of just the whole everything they've done leading into the summer split of 2022, because I think they've done some good things, some questionable things, some bad things to help in the short term and in the long term, and some things that are going to hurt the team in the short term and long term. I just want to go over all the latest with TSM in this video today. So definitely drop a like if you guys do enjoy this video. I would appreciate that so much. And subscribe to stay up to date on all the latest content. Help us run those numbers up a little bit. That would be absolutely insane. We still have a lot of people who watch our videos who just aren't subscribed. Just click the button really quick. It'd be awesome. With that being said, let's get right into this. So what I wanted to mostly talk about today was, again, I was in the middle of this cross-country move. I was moving from Arizona to Florida right as a lot of different stuff was happening. Off-season was happening and MSI. So we didn't get to cover everything right away, right as it was happening. But I still have a lot of thoughts and opinions on a lot of the things that have gone down. So catching up on some TSM stuff, even though this is from like last week, I still think it's important. And it still is going to mean a lot heading into the summer split. So this isn't like a breaking news video, but this is still, I want to give my thoughts and opinions. And I want to hear from you guys too. So first up, I didn't even know that this guy existed. I'm not like trying to be rude or trying to like roast him or anything, but I really didn't know who this was. And obviously I follow a lot of this stuff pretty closely. I'm not like the most mega in tune person ever, but pretty, like I said, I've made a YouTube video like for 430 straight days or something like that. So I'm pretty tapped in, and I don't know who Hytham is. Today we part ways with our LCS analyst, TB Hytham. Hytham has been a part of our coaching staff since 2018. His work is a foundation on which all of our LCS squads build off of. We can't thank him enough for this time and wish him the best. And then he ended up going to Team Liquid. So, I don't know if he was interested in leaving. I don't know if TSM was willing to move on from him. I can't imagine that they just decided to move on from him if he's been there since 2018. I'm sure he just maybe wanted a change and wanted to go to Team Liquid. Obviously, he's been there since 2018, and 2018 to now isn't exactly the most prosperous period in TSM history by any means. So there would be a lot of people that question like, hey, how good is this guy? How useful is he? Who knows? But since he's going from TSM to Team Liquid, he must have a good reputation. He must have people who like him. Who knows for sure. But also at the same time, there is definitely a lot of things changing at TSM. There's been a lot of things changing over the past couple of years, but even over the past couple of months. So I can't blame anybody, who maybe wants to jump ship or just try something new at this point, because, what he signed up for in 2018 probably isn't necessarily what he is looking for right now. But I did think it's kind of interesting, just a sign that more and more things are changing at TSM. You also had the fact that they are welcoming their new LCS Academy head coach, Smithy. And I think this is also very interesting. I know, hey, the meme is that the only word I ever say is interesting or whatever, but that's just the word. I mean, Smithy is a brilliant League of Legends mind. Obviously, he was an amazing player, and he was always known for his mind, his brain. He wasn't the mechanically best player. It's not like he was, going crazy on Lee Sin or anything like that all the time, or doing some crazy combos or crazy plays. He could hold his own, but he was mostly known for having great pathing, being in the right place at the right time, doing what his team needed, and just being a winner overall. And I think in that way, he will be able to hopefully do a lot of good things as a coach. But also at the same time, part of me wonders, just like this first comment here says, hey, this guy has zero coaching experience to becoming the academy head coach. Kind of weird. Obviously, Zur says this is the dumbest take he's ever seen. But yeah, maybe you'd want to start out as like an assistant coach or a positional coach or something like that. I don't exactly know what Smithy's been doing the last couple of years, but I think it's an interesting point. And also, the fact that Smithy as a player had some, at least had some people, there was at least rumors going on about his, I don't know, work ethic or some of the decision making and stuff. I know some people claimed he was like out partying a lot, and some people even went as far as to say that maybe he was like hung over to practices or games or stuff like that. Some questionable things. Obviously that stuff's maybe a couple years in the past at this point, but How good of a leader is he? How good as a communicator is he? How good of a role model is he? I don't know. Again, he's a super winning player, one of the best junglers and players in LCS history, so I hope he'll be able to come in and teach the TSM players a lot of awesome things, and maybe he'll turn into a great coach someday. Maybe not, but either way, I think it's a calculated risk from TSM, and I think it's a good one. I think it's cool to have a guy like Smithy, who is pretty well liked and well respected around the league, at least it seems like, coming into their organization. And also it's an outsider, a guy who hasn't been with TSM before, coming into TSM, hopefully teaching them some new things. I hope more that Smithy is able to come and show what he knows to TSM, rather than TSM is making Smithy fit in their TSM box, because I don't think that's what I don't think they need any more of that at this point. And then finally, it gets us into this video that I wanted to react to of Dominic Callis and Glenn, the new assistant GM for TSM, talking about their LCS roster update for heading into the summer split of 2022, where they go over all of the latest. Now, this is kind of interesting. This only has 700 likes. Is that correct? If that's true, that's kind of weird. How does this, on the TSM main Twitter account, 2.2 million followers, they posted a video that only has 700 likes and only, I don't know, that seems weird. But let's see what they have to say. Little short 3.5 minute video.
Our first split coming into the LCS here was definitely historic, but not in the way that any of us had imagined.
That's one way to put it.
At the beginning of the year. Glenn and I didn't join TSM until the roster had already been finalized, and we ultimately ran into a lot of issues and challenges.
That is definitely one interesting thing to note, is that TSM, again, they had Parth and they had all the old TSM regime kind of putting together the old roster, and then they made all these changes, bring in Dominic Callis, eventually bring in Glenn as well. So now the people who are actually running the ship at TSM actually didn't have much or anything to do with at least the roster formation. I still think they had a lot to do with the leadership and the behind the scenes stuff and stuff that went on. I do not think that Dominic Callis and Glenn are without fault or without blame for a lot of the issues that TSM went through in the spring split. I'm not saying that these guys suck or they're not capable or they're not doing a good job or whatever, but I'm just saying they can't entirely pass the buck just because they didn't make the roster. I still don't think everything was even with this roster, which probably was pretty flawed on paper. I don't think it was handled exactly the best either. Communication was still very poor. There were still a lot of things that they can improve on and learn from. But then also, even now, in between spring and summer, yes, Glenn and Dominic have much more of a hand in the pot of everything that's going on. But the offseason between spring and summer is also very difficult. You're on a short time frame. There's not even that many players available. So I really think they're getting another pass here. And I think mostly we'll be able to evaluate and judge TSM, at least Dominic and Glenn's regime, headed into 2023 and how TSM does in the spring and summer of 2023. I think even if TSM, I know they're saying, hey, we didn't really get to do anything in the spring. Here's our vision for the summer. But even if stuff goes bad in the summer, I still think they'll say, hey, we didn't pick this 2022 team, and they'll kind of use that to try and pass the buck even more. And I think that's a valid excuse, but again, I don't think it completely kind of blocks them from blame or criticism or anything like that.
Not everything is going to be fixed here within the first year, but ultimately we feel we're at a place where we can start rebuilding and get TSM back to its winning culture step by step. Our first goal this offseason was to fix the foundation. We went out and looked to build a stronger support staff that could help our players focus and be the best players possible out on the Rift. We brought in a dedicated English language and Western culture tutor and a new bilingual team manager who had experience working with both Eastern and Western players.
So that's kind of cool.
Also, we brought in a new academy head coach, Smithy, who has a wealth of experience of playing at the highest level. And finally, we moved Ganasso into a full-time analyst position. We are confident that we now have surrounded our players with the right people so that they can succeed this summer.
Our off-season roster moves, we explored two potential options for improving the roster in summer. We decided to just get one or two additional player who has good leadership and can help our team to improve. The first position we focused on was mid lane. We met with, reviewed, and graded every mid laner available, and eventually we found Maple, our scouting team, and myself. We graded Maple. His level skill is top 3 in LCS.
So I think that's kind of interesting. A lot of people are questioning just how good Maple is or is going to be for TSM. And obviously they say they're grading him as potentially top 3 in the LCS. Now, mid lane in the LCS is currently really weak, but there is still Bjergsen, there is still Jensen, Abadage, at times has been okay. I don't think he was that great recently. There's Power of Evil. There's obviously JoJo. And yes, Maple at his best is absolutely top 3. But again, he's coming off a split where he just played a handful of games in the LPL and then got benched. He wasn't that amazing for PSG Talon last year. But again, coming into the LCS where the bar is already set really, really low, it's definitely possible Maple could be top 3. But also, League of Legends is a team game, and it's not so much about individual skill, especially in modern League of Legends. It's about fit. It's about chemistry. It's about synergy. It's about playing together, which is not at all what TSM did in the spring. And if Maple's able to come in and do that with Spica and the rest of the team, yeah, he could be top 3, and yeah, TSM could be a pretty solid team. But if TSM plays anything like they did in spring, Maple's not going to be a top 3 mid laner, even if he's capable of that individually. It's just going to be too hard when the team's playing poorly. But I think Maple has a chance to come in and be okay. I don't know if the move makes a ton of sense long term, especially when guys like Jensen and maybe some other players were available. But yeah, we'll have to wait and see. I mean, yes, obviously Glenn has some ties to Maple before, both coming over from PSG Talon. So I wonder if there's any bias there at all. I wonder if there's anything there affecting the decision making. But again, they are grading him as a top 3 mid laner in the LCS, which is kind of high praise. But again, you have to think of it relatively to LCS in the mid lane, which is not that strong right now.
I work with Maple in PSG, right? Even in off season, he can play 12 to 14 games a day. He loves this game and he has the passion. Maple, he has 9 years experience in League of Legends. When his team needs him, and he always can just stand out and help his team to get victory.
And that is a cool thing that Maple's going to be bringing to TSM. Again, this is the thing. I think TSM over the past couple of years, they haven't been winning. They haven't been doing a whole lot of great things. I think bringing in outside winners and bringing them into TSM and showing TSM how to win, building from the ground up, taking things from outside teams rather than just being, oh, the TSM way, you know, Reggie's way, blah, 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 all this stuff. I think if they can look towards other people, it's like, hey, how do we win? How can we do this? How can we become an international powerhouse? How can we become a domestic threat once again? I think is really going to be how TSM is able to figure things out rather than trying to continue the TSM culture that maybe used to work 5 years ago, but hasn't worked in the last like 3 or 4 years. So in some ways, I think Maple can be good. Yes, he has a ton of experience. Yes, he is a winner. Yes, he can really help guys like Shen Yi and Tactical and guys like that, you know, coach them up, maybe even speak a little bit. But at the same time, yes, he is a guy who's been playing for 9 years. Yes, it doesn't seem like he's at the peak of his career anymore. Yes, it seems like he's on a downward trajectory. And I don't know, there's a lot of people making comparisons to guys like Sword Art where you're buying high on guys who are kind of trending down, you know, spending up on guys who are trending down, and language barrier, and coming over to a new country, coming over to new culture, all this stuff. And it's a tough transition to make, especially for players who maybe aren't even already the best skill-wise at that stage in their career. I don't know. It could be a really good move. It could be not so great of a move. But either way, I think the stakes are pretty low coming off obviously the spring split that TSM had.
To win again.
Moving on to the Academy roster, our overall long-term goal for Academy is to form a team that's younger, domestic, more driven, and better able to support our main LCS roster.
And I think those are great goals. I think that everything he's saying is what a Academy team probably should be. I think, yes, it should be younger. It should be more domestic. It should be better prepared to actually give your LCS team meaningful and reasonable practice that can actually help them, you know, like actionable things going on. But I also question if that's what the TSM Academy team did in this offseason.
Our first step in that direction is going to begin in top lane, where we will be replacing Viper with Anime Girl, who will eventually be changing his name to Soul.
He's very talented and work very, very hard, and also he can speak English and Mandarin very well.
That's definitely cool.
We're looking forward to seeing him.
I actually think Anime Girl is a really, really big pickup. It seems like he was a great player in the amateur scene, and he is a guy who could potentially be an LCS top laner at some point in the future. Obviously, he's not ready. He's not there yet, but maybe TSM is considering him for 2023. Who knows? Again, Huni has an expiring contract. I don't know if Anime Girl's on a trajectory where he will be like LCS caliber by 2023. But maybe they're looking at him for like 2024. Who knows? Either way, I think that is actually a good pickup, and I am a big fan of that one.
Developed in our academy team. For Mia, the reason why we pick him because we think he is LCS ready player. He was playing in LCK, and after that.
And then they just talk about how they're picking up Mia as well. And that's where I kind of begin to question things, because he says they want to get younger. And I don't know how old Mia is. I don't know if he's 21, 22. He's somewhere in there. But they also say they want to get more domestic while having two imports, Shenny and Maple, in the LCS. And then also having Mia and Takeover as two imports in their academy as well. They literally have the maximum number of imports. They're not, I mean, obviously I know he says his long-term goal is to get to more domestic, but in the short term, they're not trying to get more domestic at all. But either way, I would have to say that TSM is obviously in a really, really weird spot after having such a disappointing spring split. And I don't really think there's a ton of options out there that were going to really prepare them for the future too much in between spring and summer. I think the 2023 offseason leading into it is going to be way, way, way more important for TSM, and that has a huge potential to really decide where the team's going to go for the next couple of years. I really think the only meaningful move they could have done in this mini offseason that would have really impressed me or anyone else out there was picking up Bo. And honestly, I think not ending up with Bo and still having him ending up on a team in the West is overall a pretty big L for TSM, especially since the fact that Bo is willing to like play on an academy team for a split or a year or whatever and try and figure out things until 2023. I do question why TSM was not willing to do that, but was still willing and able to go out and get other imports and stuff like that. That is a little bit weird. That's a little bit strange to me, especially with Spica's contract expiring at the end of the season. We'll talk about more of that in the future, but I did want to get out all the latest different kind of moves and changes that I haven't covered yet on the channel that TSM is doing. Again, I think Maple has a chance to be good. I think it's okay. I think bringing Shenny back as a starter overall is a good move. I think Smithy will be cool. I don't really understand bringing in Mia as the academy support, but hey, we'll have to see how that goes. And then I think bringing an anime girl in the top lane for academy is a pretty big pickup and probably the most significant move that TSM made this entire offseason. But that's pretty much it for this video today, guys. Let me drop a like if you did enjoy it. I would appreciate that so much. Leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think about this TSM offseason. Overall, do you think this was a good, bad, somewhere in the middle offseason for TSM? I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts and opinions. Subscribe, stay up to date on all my latest content. I hope to catch you guys in the next one. But until then, peace.